Welcome everyone to another of today's TTA's summer sessions. Today we're joined by Joanne Adams, and she's going to be talking about publishing, and she's going to be talking specifically about how to write that book. So I'll pass over to Joanne now, and she can go from there.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So let me just pull my screen up. So a little word of warning, if you pop any questions in during the chat, I'll not be able to see them in the end because I'm going to have my notes up so that I know. So sadly, I won't see your faces for a few seconds while I talk this through. So bear with me 1 second. There we go. Okie dokie. So thank you for coming today. I hope you find this useful. It does come with a little caveat in that I am not affiliated to any publishers, to any software, or to anybody in the publishing world. This is very much from my experience, what I learned that worked really well and what I learned that didn't work really well. So hopefully I can help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I faced. So a little bit about me. So my background, I am a tutor. I've been with the Tutors Association for a number of years now, and I found it really, really useful. I'm based in Preston in the northwest of England, and I'm a qualified primary teacher. I trained at Edge Hill University, qualified in 2009, and became a classroom teacher that same year in 2009. I taught across many year groups at primary school, and I began my tutoring journey in 2015 alongside working in school. But I think we all know what happened in 2020, and that did have some influence along with a lot of other factors. And I left the classroom in 2020, carried on my tuition journey, and then came up with the idea of publishing my first children's workbook, which is the Busy Bee Times Tables workbook. That was published in January of 2023. So some of you might already have that passion burning. You may want to write that book. You may have that title already down. So why write a book? You will have lots of different reasons. Your reasons will be very personal to you. It may be that you've had that long-held dream to have a physical book in your hand with your name on it. It may be a legacy thing, that's something you leave to your children, your grandchildren. It may be sort of a passion to have something in your classrooms that you've left, or lots and lots of long-held dreams that are a personal passion. It may be that it supports what you're doing already. It may be that it's a material for a course or program that you deliver. To have a workbook that your students work through alongside what you're teaching them may enhance your program, and it may enhance your saleability of that program and make it much easier for your students. It may be that you want to establish your expertise within your field. So mine's primary maths and verbal reasoning. So my book shows that I'm an expert currently in times tables and helping children to learn times tables. It may be that yours is photography, and your book would establish you as an expert in your world of photography. It does establish your expertise when people are referred in newspaper articles, magazine articles as an expert. Often it's got that "and author of" what their book is. So it is a really good way to do that. It's a great part of a visibility strategy, getting you out to more people, possibly more customers, and having content to talk about through your social media channels. And it also creates a revenue stream, an extra revenue stream. I will talk a little bit more about that. We all know J.K. Rowling. We all know her journey started with a book with this guy called Harry Potter. Her background, she attracted a publishing house, the Bloomsbury Publishing, and it started with a £1,500 advance from that company to write the book. The Scottish Art Council backed her with another £8,000. This was back in 1995 to write that very first book, The Philosopher's Stone. And we all know what happened: book deals, film deals, all sorts later. It is harder to get that traditional book deal, but not impossible. We are in a social media world. Those publishing houses want to know how well known you're out there. How well known you're out there in your field is how likely your book is going to sell, who does it meet, and so on. So a traditional publishing deal is not impossible, but we have to be realistic about the extra revenue stream in terms of it all really depends on your audience, and you need to do a lot of work to build up your audience in order to be able to sell your book. Okay, so the different routes. there's 3 different routes. Self-publishing, which is what I did, traditional publisher, which is their JK Rowling, but there's also this partnership element now where you can have a publishing partner. So let's go through the pros and cons for each one. Self-publishing is low cost or no cost. All it's going to cost you is your time, and it is time consuming, but if you can trade your time, let me just admit Oliver in. Oops, lost my slide. Where did he go? He has, he's joined. So yes, it's going to cost you time, but not necessarily money. If you can factor that time in that doesn't affect your business, that is the most profitable way to do it. It can be frustrating at times. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. I had absolutely no experience in doing mine, and I've managed to do it. So it is certainly possible. You need to look at the copyright issues. You know, are what you say, is it true? Is it your words to be able to say? Have you referenced anybody needs to be referenced in terms of their work? 1 second, sorry, somebody else joined. There we go, I'm back. So yeah, copyright issues in terms of what you say, but also images. If you're using any images, obviously you need the copyright for them. So if you're going to put Tinkerbell or Mickey Mouse in, you're going to have copyright issues. You don't own the rights to that, and Disney are unlikely to give you the rights. So again, just make sure you do your due diligence on that basis. And the overall finish of your book. The overall finish of your book is difficult to achieve to look like a published copy, something you would see in a bookstore, but it's not impossible. It does take time, and it's worth doing it because it is a red flag to customers. If it doesn't look like it's been done by a publisher, there is that straight away they're underestimating what's actually in the book and the difference it's going to make. A publishing partner, they have grown over the years, and there are lots around. I'm not going to mention any of the particular companies because I haven't used them, so I can't sort of recommend anybody. However, the expertise within those publishing partnerships is huge. They're usually made up of people who have worked for publishers, have skills in editing, have skills in formatting, book cover design, promotion, and so on. They're going to be able to read your work, give you feedback, so hugely beneficial, but they are going to charge for their services. So again, it's a budget thing. How much are you going to budget to actually use? And there's a sliding scale depending on how much help you need, obviously the sliding scale of charges as well. And then you've got your traditional publisher. So the traditional route is you would write a submission, sort of synopsis of what you're going to do and how it's going to work, who it's going to attract, what it's for, and you would seek a literary agent. You can find them on Google, but the best place to find them is LinkedIn. Look for your genre. What genre you're going to be writing in. So for me, mine was children's non-fiction. Is it children's stories? Is it a business manual you're going to be writing? Find your literary agent that matches that genre and approach them. Okay, they tend to be linked to specific publishers, so therefore think about the publisher that you want. Who would your book sit really well? So there is a little bit of research to do that. Usually, if you're accepted by that publisher, they will make an upfront payment to you and put you into a contractual situation. That contract will have certain caveats. It may be a deadline for your first submission, a deadline for your edit, publishing deadline, and so on. You still have to market that book yourself. It's not a case of just writing and then your publisher does all the work for you. There is an expectation that you're going to use your audience to promote that book and help the publisher recoup their money. Obviously the publisher's website, they'll do an initial launch and things like that for you. But yeah, the marketing is still very much your task to do. How do you earn money that way? Okay, so a traditional publisher, you've been paid up front, and then the royalties come in for the book. So that's the money, you know, the profit margin of the book, should we say. So the profit comes in and it goes to the publisher. The publisher keeps taking those royalties until they have been paid back. Then those royalties keep getting paid back until the literary agent's paid back. Once everybody's been paid back their initial upfront costs, then you will get a portion of the royalties on that book. So as you can imagine, to pay back the advance and the literary agent, your book needs to recoup thousands before you're going to get any royalties, because you've already had that upfront payments. The publisher can also influence and restrict any future books and who you work with as well. So I would advise, if you do go down the traditional publisher route and you get that contract, ask for some legal help who's going to look through those that small print to protect you and your future work as well. So yeah, 3 different routes. I'm only going to comment on the self-publishing route because I haven't touched the other routes. However, when I talk to you about some of the other books I've got, I am going to seek out some professionals to help me in some of the stages, which I'll talk about later on. So this was my book, or is my book, should I say. It's still out there for sale. The Busy Bee Times Tables Workbook, 100% self-published, no traditional publisher, no editor, no formatter, no PR agency, and no cost to me other than my time to produce it. I wrote this in Canva, exported it in PDF, and then uploaded it to Amazon KDP Publishing, which I'll talk about later on. I'll just admit somebody else. There we go. It can be done. It absolutely can be done. Would I do it all the same again? Probably not. There are definitely things I didn't do. I didn't start with a strategy, first of all. I'll be honest with you. I started with the children that come to me for maths tuition, struggle with their times tables, and a book would really help them. I'll be honest, that's not the savviest way to write a book and to make any money from it. That's a passion project, and we all have those. And I'm proud of my book. I'm really proud of my book. And if that's what you want to do, do it. You know, if you just want to have something, you publish that book, that's brilliant. However, if you want to earn an income from your book, you do need that strategy. Who's going to buy it? Where are they? Formatting is something I'm going to employ this time around because I think it will help me greatly and take out some of those teething issues I had with it. But I'll talk more about what I've learned later on. So let's get started with your book. First of all, your audience. Really think about who it is that book is for. Who is going to buy it? Are you talking to other tutors? Therefore, use tutoring language. Use what they know. Use what you know as a tutor. Teachers, different. They are a different hat. I'll be honest with a tutor. As a tutor, we do what we know works for our pupils. A teacher has a slightly different hat on in that they're going to do what they know their school parameters and the national curriculum wants them to do. So that it is a slightly different angle to come from. Parents is a different angle again. For some parents, they will want something that aligns with their school. A home education parent is going to want something that's aligned with their values. So really sort of hunt out that. Mine really has 2 audiences. I need to attract a parent because the parent's going to exchange the money for the book, but it has to speak to the children. The children are going to take part in it. Keep that at the forefront all the way through. If you lose your understanding of your audience in the writing process, your end product is unlikely to speak to the people you intended. So just keep that in mind and keep your purpose in mind as well. Is it to instruct? Think of the journey. What's the end point? What do you want them to be able to do once they've finished reading that book? Is it a practice book? Is there enough practice in that book? Does it move them on? Is it there to entertain? Okay. Is it there to qualify them? If you're GCSE, A levels, you know, degree, anything like that, obviously that journey will, going through your book, help them qualify in something. Where to start? Getting started, sometimes it's a double-edged sword. You can ponder over the thought process for years and years and never actually do it. And then the getting started bit, if you get started in the right way, you'll not stop. And literally the cat's out of the bag and you'll run with it. And that's what I did. But somebody gave me a great piece of advice, and it's one I would give to you. Write your contents page first. Thought shower everything you're going to put in that book, all your ideas onto a piece of paper, and then connect those ideas and create a logical order for them. And then split them into chapters or sections to your book. You then have a schedule for writing. That is your writing schedule. Think about how much time is it going to write individual sections. How long will a chapter take to write? You're probably only going to know this once you start writing and reflect, thinking that was an hour or that was all afternoon. Depends on your writing style and your level of concentration. It's a very personal thing. Put those writing slots in your diary. They are then a business task for you to do. And when they're in your diary, they will get done. And having it time blocked means that you've moved along on your journey. Every single block, you know, oh, brilliant, behind me, that's behind me, which is huge. If you just go at it writing, the chances are you will feel overwhelmed, you'll lose your train of thought, your information in the book will become quite scattered, and you'll probably lose the will with it, and it'll be an abandoned project. So this is worth doing. It definitely kept me going. I still use exactly the same with the 3 new books that I'm writing as well. Planning. The process. You probably imagined there was 3 stages: draft, edit and publish, but there's actually 4. The formatting one is quite important and quite fiddly, and it comes into the point of actually the format of your book. So there's lots of formats. That's my book, roughly A4. It's not quite A4, but that's what I was trying to achieve. It's roughly an A4 book, and it's roughly about 100 pages. In KDP, in Amazon, which I'll show you the screen of, it has all the information about the book sizes you can do. That's a different size book altogether, more pages than me. It's more of a traditional business manual. There's lots of different sizes. Yeah, similar size, but much, much thinner. So there's lots of variety. Think about your size, go into KDP and have a look at those different dimensions and have an idea of what your book is going to look like before you start writing, because it will save you loads of time in the formatting and editing. For me, I had a few fiddly bits, I'm not going to lie, which makes my books harder to write. My books are maths books, and in maths we have these fiddly symbols like equations and squared numbers and things like that don't necessarily not necessarily easy to follow in things like Word. I wanted illustrations in there as well, and that's why Word wasn't necessarily the easiest choice for me. So think about what's going to be on each page. Is it just going to be text? Is it going to be text and numbers? Have you got any fiddly equations? Have you got any graphics or images? Think about that in your first stage, because I'll come on to it will align to which software or how you write your book. The editing stage, you can do it yourself, or you could ask trusted friends or family, or you could employ a professional. Formatting, which I'll go into in a minute, and then the publishing stage, which is quite exciting. So let's go to drafting first. Okie dokie. So we talked about all the different things that could be on your page. Your book dimensions are important because if you draft your book within those dimensions, it will be easy to edit, and the formatting, everything just flows. Some of those stages later on become so much easier. If you just write and do that later on, like I did, you'll spend days and weeks formatting every page, and it's not a joyful task going backwards. So if you do that prior to, you will save yourself lots of time. And you need to consider something called the bleed. So the bleed is a publishing term, and it looks like this. So when you're writing, if you leave the appropriate margins according to the guidelines in KDP around your page, you will be absolutely fine. You will be able to upload your PDF into Kindle, and they'll be joyful, and you can publish quickly. The reason for this, if you think about a book, you've got your joining spine. So when you open your book, as you can see, you can't see the end of that page particularly well unless you split it. So particularly for mine, I wanted children to write in my book, so I needed to make sure my bleed was appropriate. If you have images like the picture in the middle that go to the edge, if there's no text in those images, it's absolutely fine, because when it's chopped off for the printed book, not an issue. However, if you've got, I don't know, a child on a picture of a child or a cartoon character, and that half that's going to be chopped off, that could affect the quality and the overall look of your book. So for each, in Amazon KDP, for each dimension of the book, it talks about a bleed, and that's what it refers to. So having that in your drafting, back of your drafting mind, again, it just saves you a lot of time. I wish I'd known about it when I started writing a book. So to the process. Where are you going to draft your book? I wrote mine in Canva because I wanted illustrations in there. They also have this lovely tool now that's called the equation tool, where you can put fractions and square numbers and things like that in there. Formatting's still a bit of an issue with Canva. I'm not going to lie. You do have those lovely lines. You do have the consideration you can put in your bleed section and things like that. But there's still work to be done on the formatting. So for me, it's my option at the moment because there's so many fiddly things like illustrations and maths in my books that's the right option. However, if you're going to write something more traditional, something like that, or yeah, as I say, anything that doesn't have those fiddly things, you might find other software more useful. Adobe has InDesign, which is specifically for writing booklets, workbooks, publishing textbooks, and so on. So if it's a more traditional book you're trying to achieve, you might find a lot less hassle using Adobe InDesign. Other recommended book writing software that's specifically designed for this task at hand: Atticus, Vellum, and Scrivener, amongst many. I actually use their information and ask them questions. Would I be able to do what I'm trying to achieve in Atticus, Vellum, Scrivener, and so on? Sadly for me, no, because what I'm trying to do is a little bit niche. It's a little bit different because it's got that children's element with illustrations. So Canva is for me. Not going to be the easiest process, but it's still work. It's still achievable. Step 2, the editing. Pay somebody to edit your book, or find lots of people, not just one, lots. So my poor family had to check my book over and over again. My advice is print it off, do the checking yourself first, print it, and then give it to people and a highlighter. They will find mistakes, and then it'll come back to you, and you will find more because you're looking at it with a different set of eyes. The more editing you do, the more layers of editing you do, the more professional their outcome. The chances of still having a mistake in your book are still there. Whilst none of my answers are incorrect, some of the questions don't match the format. There's, I think, 2 in my book, which is a real pain. And as I say, if you're an English teacher and you're writing about English grammar, you're going to want to make sure your grammar is spot on in that book. So the more layers of editing, the better the finish. Formatting. This is something, because I use Canva with illustrations and maths and all the rest of it, this is something that I'm probably going to employ a company to help me out. And I'm currently in the process of getting quotes. And there are professionals, there are individuals out there that will just do formatting for you. And there are companies. So again, there's a sliding scale. Some companies won't entertain my type of books. It's too fiddly. I don't want to be bothered with illustrations and symbols. For some, they're going, yeah, that's fine, just send us an extract and we'll see if we can do it for you. The formatting stage is when I would do your contents numbering and page numbering. Don't do it before then. Because in the editing phase, as you're looking, you'll go, that page is useless. We don't need that page. It's repeating something. Or you'll go, I'm just going to put an extra page in there. And having to repage it, which I did 4 times, is a complete waste of time and really annoying. So don't do your contents numbering or your page numbering till the very last thing you do before you publish. It's really boring formatting, but it's essential. It makes the difference. Somebody, when I showed this book to somebody who is in the publishing world, they said, oh, which publisher did you use? And I said, I didn't, I self-published. And she said, oh, wow, you don't normally get that finish on a self-published book, which was a huge compliment for me. So it just shows it is possible. You just have to have that really careful eye and that patience before publishing. I published using KDP Publishing. The reason for that is they've got the biggest share in the market. You know, Amazon's huge. It's I think I've got the stats somewhere. I might share them with you on the next slide. I think 65% of all books sold online worldwide are sold through Amazon. But there are other publishing houses that do online. Ingram Spark, Lulu Press, Barnes and Noble is huge in America. I was in America a few months ago and went in one of their stores. That is, you know, if your book is for the American market, that's probably where you want to focus. And then yeah, all sorts of others. I can't respond on those because I haven't used them. Amazon has been my port of call. This is what KDP publishing looks like. KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. And whether you want to publish a physical book or an ebook, it's exactly the same process. It will often prompt you when you're putting your physical book in there, do you want to make this an ebook? Mine's not an ebook because I want the children to write in it. So there's no point it being in an ebook, but it is just as easy to do. All you do is you put the tick in that box and you put the prices around it. So there's three main parts to KDP. There's uploading your book, uploading your book cover, and there is a designer in there. So I designed my cover in Canva and then uploaded it there, and it's red flags. It's like, no, even though I'd use the dimensions and everything, no, it doesn't work. However, when I uploaded my Canva picture into the KDP book designer, bingo, it worked. So little top tip to save you a few hours of hassle: use the book designer, import your photograph, your image into the book cover designer, bingo, you will get exactly the same looking book without a lot of hassle. So it will ask you the paper type you want to use, the amount of color you want to use, the number of pages, and that all relates to the costs of printing that book. So it's called a print on demand service. Every time they get an order on Amazon, they literally trigger the computer, off comes your book, it's parceled up and sent to your customer. You don't need an ISBN number before Kindle. Amazon can sort all that out for you. It's not something you have to do. You can do it separately if you want to, but Amazon will assign you an ISBN number, and that is an international standard book number. So if you talk to anybody else anywhere, whether it's W.H. Smith's, Waterstones, any other retailer, they'll say, well, what's your ISBN number? Because that's the only way they can identify your book. Let's have a little look. So when it comes to your book size, your paper choice, your amount of colour, choose wisely, because it affects the royalties of your book, how much you're going to earn from your book. So there is no charge by KDP for putting your book on there. You only earn money from that book through the sales. So if your book doesn't sell, you earn zero. Okay, so that's why you need to market your book and do it really, really well. Again, that's something I didn't do particularly well, but I'll tell you what I've learned from that. So you can choose where you sell your book as well. Obviously, Amazon's worldwide, but if you only want your book to sell in the UK, you can choose that. Or you can choose a specific, can't say that word today, specific countries you want to sell your book in. So I've had sales in Finland, America, and the UK with my book, even though I haven't done any marketing in those countries. No idea how, but yeah, they're listed there. They do have on Amazon best sellers, and that's a bit of an intricate market. It all comes down to your sales strategy, which I'll talk about in a little while. So my book's on sale for £7.75. You've seen the size of it. You've seen there is some colour on the cover, but I've gone for a black and white book on the inside, purely to do with the royalties and printing cost. So on my £7.75 book, I earn £2.50 on every copy sold, and the payments are sent to me quarterly. So they collect all the payments and they send one payment to me quarterly to my business bank account. The book costs £2.15 to print, and that's where that £2.50 comes from. So it's that difference. Again, there is an advice page in KDP that will tell you exactly what you're going to earn from that book. When my book first went on sold, it was a little bit cheaper than that, but I have moved my price up. You can do special offers, you know, for Black Friday and things like that, and just change the price. You can do promotions and so on. If I want to sell my book, okay, so if your strategy is to physically sell your book, you can do that. So I can order as many copies as I want to of my book for £2.15. That's all it costs me. Okay, so I can get a box of books delivered to my house, 10 books, 30 books, 100 books, whatever, and they will be £2.15 a book. So if you want to go to a trade fair or local school fair or whatever and sell your book, obviously the profit margin is a lot bigger to do it that way. Depends on your strategy and on your bigger picture. If a book distributor picks up that book because it's selling well on Amazon, that's not happened to me yet, but hopefully with the next books, I would only get 95 pence on the sale of that book. So whilst it would be lovely for my book to be in WH Smith's or Waterstones, every time that's sold through them, I will only earn 95 pence. Okay, so the bigger strategy is, if I'm going to make a revenue from this book, it's going to come from Amazon online. The bigger revenue will come from me selling it direct. However, if you want your book to be in stores across the country, you've got to assume that per book you're going to earn less. So yeah, that's the publishing world. It is quite straightforward, quite user friendly, I have to say. I had absolutely no knowledge. I fiddled about in KDP. You can't really make a mistake with it. It just doesn't go live until it's all absolutely right. A sales strategy. This is the big piece I missed with my book. I wrote for a passion. I didn't really think about how I was going to sell it. So have your strategy in mind all the way through your writing of your book and when you're coming to sell it. What are the age of the people that are going to buy your book? Because that will factor in where they hang out on social media or whether they're even on social media. You know, certain demographics don't even bother with social media. They are in different places, and therefore you have to be in those different places as well. Where do they live? Are your buyers all going to be UK buyers, or are your buyers actually all going to be American? Because what you're going to write about is much bigger in America than it is in the UK. Make sure that your sales strategy matches that. So what social media channels do they use? Instagram has a different audience to Facebook. Facebook still has the largest audience by a long stretch. But Instagram is more of a magazine. It's more visual. They're going to look for reels of you flicking through the book. They're going to look for people using your book, that domino effect of sharing posts of other people who bought your book, other people who've read your book. Those reviews of your book are going to be huge on your social media strategy. Podcast. Can you appear on other people's podcasts and talk about your book? That's what I'm doing at the moment. Are your audience listening to that podcast? So generally speaking, I've been doing podcasts to build up my confidence in doing podcasts, and other business owners will be there. But my next stage is, obviously I need to be on podcasts where parents are, because parents are the people that I want to buy my books. So hunting those out. Using your email list. If you haven't got one, start building one up, because that's something I didn't do for a long time. I wish I'd started it 10 years ago. But emailing your list and go, do you know about my new book? My biggest supporters have been people who have had me as a tutor, or children that I used to teach in school. They went straight out to buy the book, even though some of them didn't need the timetables, because they are my biggest champions and they all told other people about them. So make sure they're in the know, make sure they're the first to know, because they will do a lot of the shouting for you. Tell the local news. Yeah, I had a nice lovely piece in my Busy Bee book in my local newspaper. It was Local Mum produces maths book for children, or something like that as the title. There was a lovely picture with me. They even came and did a video and photo shoot and everything. I felt like royalty for the day. But that then is the SEO. So search engine optimization. If you have a website where you're selling your book, for example, if you're wanting to post it out yourself and get some sales that way, the more places you are on talking about your book that link back to your website, the higher your website is in the search engine, where you can make more sales. And whether it's tuition you're wanting to sell more of, or it's your book you're wanting to sell more of, or your program or your digital course, it all feeds into the bigger picture. So use PR, newspapers, magazines, make comment on the things. LinkedIn as well, amongst your other professionals. There are other tutors that may find your book really useful and may share your book to people they know in the industry. What hobbies do your readers have? So for my readers, they're likely to go to things like rainbows and guides. They may go to the local hockey club and the local football club and the local cricket club. So I am probably going to have some advertising of my book in those areas, depending on cost, obviously. So where do your readers hang out? Yeah. Are they in the local pub, for example? Can you use the notice board in the local pub to talk about your book? Depends on your audience. Where are they? Are they all golfers? You know, do they hang out in the golf club afterwards and chat? Be where your readers are likely to be, and then launch it. Think about how you're going to launch it, build it up. I'm working on my launch and how I'm going to tell the world about my books in October. I didn't do this particularly well. Well, I didn't do it at all, to be fair, with the Timetables book. I put a photograph. I've published a book. It's out there. Put it on Facebook. That's out there. And then I probably really haven't talked about it since. That's not a great strategy to sell your book. I'm going to be totally honest. Think about how you can build that excitement up. Talk about the writing phase. Talk about the good days and the bad days as you're writing on social media. Share it with your audience so that they know it's coming. So that when it is launched, they're ready and primed to buy. Can you do a competition? Can your competition be an element where people share and talk about your book? There is special offers and giveaways. Prizes are good. Special offer, be aware. I wouldn't do a special offer in your launch phase because it undervalues your work. When I've been to a number of different webinars and conferences, they've all sort of said, don't do that. Special offers come later. They come on Black Friday. They come at Christmas. They come in bundles. But don't undervalue your book. Price it properly. Get it out there and sell it. People will be ready to buy it. What would I change? So made a lot of mistakes. Market research, did very little of that. I just wrote books because children needed to learn times tables. But do your audience research. Don't be afraid to get a focus group together of people who are your ideal buyers. Questionnaires. Chat with other professionals. Chat with other authors that wrote that book. What would they do if they did it differently? Procrastination was huge. I'm going to be honest. I talked myself out of it so many times. I'm in that procrastination phase at the minute. I should really be formatting my book right now, but I'm finding all sorts of tasks not to do it. And I would say from the people I've spoken to who have written a book, but it's never been published, it's that editing and formatting stage where that project can be lost because we procrastinate. Perfectionism is huge for me. Perfectionism takes over. I can't publish it. It's not right. It's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready. Done is better than perfect. You've probably heard that around. Having a book published is better than a perfect book. You can always create a second edition and publish that to take over that slot. We are all human. And I think if we recognize there will be mistakes in it, but we try and minimize those mistakes, it's a much better place than trying to achieve that perfect book. And continued promotion. I've already alluded to that. Keep talking about it, not just on the launch day, not just in the launch week, every single day, every single week, everywhere you go, to everybody you speak to. That's something I didn't do particularly well with my times tables book. I did it and then just kind of left it and moved on to the next thing and moved on to the next thing. Promote, promote, promote. With the way social media is, you can probably mention it 3 times and 80% of your audience still hasn't heard it. It's only when you get into the 12th, 13th, 14th time that you're probably likely to have touched all your audience on your social media. It's just the way the algorithm works. So it feels like repeating yourself. If it feels like repeating yourself, you're probably doing it right. So what am I up to? I'm currently writing a new series, a new brand that the world doesn't know about. I've only just announced it here. My new brand of learning workbooks is Happy Hedgehog Learning. And that's the new brand that's coming out later this year. And I'm writing some new maths books for year 6, purely from my knowledge as a teacher of what's missing, what do they need, how does it work together, and how does it fill those gaps. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. In the tuition industry, we have all sorts of different knowledge. It's huge. There will be other teachers and tutors out there doing maths books, but we'll all come from different angles and they'll all speak to different buyers. Don't be put off by somebody else in your industry writing that book first. That put me off lots and lots. Don't do it. Just allow yourself to go with your idea, finish it and get it done. The best resources are the ones written by tutors and teachers in the industry. We understand the gaps, we understand the hurdles, and we know the pathway to get over those. So our books should sell better than anything else in the industry. There are books out there that are not written by people who work in those industries, but they sell well because they've got a big label on them. So if we champion each other on what we do, our books should sell really, really well too. So what I want to say to you today is, if you've got that book, write it, get it published, and tell me about it. I will be your biggest champion on social media and tell the world about it. Let's do it together. So I appreciate I've waffled on there for 40 minutes about everything publishing, and you may well have some questions. I know it was a whistle-stop tour. I've still got lots more to learn. Let's have a look what questions there are, and I'll see how many I can answer. So please feel free, shout, put your hand up if you've got anything, or pop them in the chat. So Claire, if you do KDP but hire an illustrator, how do you ensure the illustrator gets paid? So this is my new book, and paid an illustrator to do it. So I instructed my graphic designer with what I wanted him to do, and I paid him separately. So then he sent me the ping files, just because of the resolution on ping is a little bit better than JPEG, and they're mine. I own those now, so I then upload them. I'm still going to go into KDP Book Designer though, and put those images into the Book Designer, because I know if I put them in as a cover, I'll probably get all those error messages again. So it's just use the designer, but put your image into it. It's literally just an online tool, and it has all the dimensions, so you can see, you can work out things like your spine, where your spine should go, and if you can even cut your images up and place them into the 3 sections. Yeah, that's the top tip for that. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? Anybody got that title already? Anybody got that, like, this is what I've been wanting to do for a while? Claire, go on. What have you got in mind?
I've actually got the book. I've written, me and my son wrote a children's book on the way home from school one day. And I've also contacted an illustrator as well, who used to work for publishing. It's nothing to do with what I tutor, by the way.
Yeah, no, we all have a passion.
I tutor secondary physics. I'm not a children's book writer, but this was just it was an idea that was sparked. We wrote a poem, and I was like, this is going to make a really good children's book. So that's kind of where this has come from. But then in the future, I've got lots of ideas for around getting girls interested in physics and things. So that's where my career will go. But instantly, I just want to get this one book published, because I think it would be lovely as a legacy for me and my son, and also everybody that knows us, and anybody that's interested in gardening. It's called Slugs Save Lives.
Oh, love it. So you've probably heard of a book that was written by the Eden Project, and it was George Saves the Day, and it was all about recycling. But I bought all of it. I loved it. So yeah, I love that idea. I think it. So please, when you publish, tell me, because I will tell all of my audience about it. I'll tell the world.
Thank you.
Just on that basis, though, I do know of somebody who's just done that walked that journey that you're doing. A lady called Nicola Rowley, and her background's PR, but her son is in primary school, and he's just written a book, The Sock Sloth. In fact, bear with me 1 second. And there it is, Sock Sloth. So yeah, they've just done it, and it's available on Amazon. So that was released. She actually has a publishing house. Again, obviously you can do it self-publish, and it's not going to cost you money. If you wanted to go down the route of that supported publisher, she's got Rainbow House. She's actually set it up herself, Rainbow House Publishing. So she is offering that option for children to have that publishing experience. Obviously, there's a cost involved, but and another lovely lady I've come across who does the same thing, Abigail Horn from Authors & Co. She does a similar thing for children as well. But you can self-publish. So yeah, exciting, loving it.
Yeah.
Mel, have you got any burning book desires? Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, I keep doing that. I haven't yet, but my interest is dyslexia and phonics.
Oh, wow.
So in my mind, I've got like maybe some phonics cards or something like that.
Yeah.
In my mind to start with, really.
Yeah, sounds perfect. Yeah, sounds good. I used to teach phonics. I must admit, I niched down into maths, but yeah, I used to do phonics, and I would say there's a huge audience out there for phonics, huge. So if you get the planning piece right and your audience right and the section of your market right, I would say home education. They're always looking for something that's user friendly, you know, that for people that have not come from that classroom background. So yeah, I think you're onto something there.
Brilliant, that's good to know.
Do it. So there's another question there. Oh, thank you, Diane. Oh, Lou, how do you find the publishing house? Okay, so I would go straight to my good old friend Google and think about your genre. So for me, because when I was looking initially, should I go down that route, I was looking for children's non-fiction, illustrated non-fiction. So straight away, when you go to some of the publishing houses and you read their genre, if you go into their website, they're quite specific about what they're looking for. So straight away I was like, well, they're not going to be interested, they're not going to be interested, they're not going to be interested. And then some are a little bit like, it might be. Write to them, just do it. Write to them, show them your submission and see what they say. The worst they're going to say is no, and you might have to sort of tinker around a bit and then deliver it in a different way. One no doesn't mean to say no forever. They may, you know, they may take you on board for a different idea or for the same idea but done in a slightly different way. So yeah, Google would be my first point, and LinkedIn. Link yourself in with different publishing houses and literary agents and speak to them. Does your idea, usually they have kind of a hit list of realms and things that they're trying to cover. Depends on the industry. It's obviously books is enormous. It depends who you would be writing to and your audience really, but Google and go for it. Don't, yeah, you may, I would say if you're going down negotiation lines with one publishing house though, stop anything with anybody else, just one at a time. If one publishing house is interested, if you're doing conversations and negotiations with 2 or 3 publishing houses, that could cause a conflict of interest and come to bite you in the bottom. So I would just start with your main publisher that you have that passion for, and seek out. Obviously I can't really talk about publishers because I haven't worked with one. I can only talk about what I've been told from other people who've trod on that journey. So I would certainly seek advice really and just make sure that anything like that. But yeah, Google would be my first, and Google and LinkedIn would definitely be my first point of call. And good luck with it. So go for it. Any other questions? No, don't think there's any other questions, Julius.
I don't think so, Joanne. That was a really good, really interesting talk. Very inspirational. Kind of got me thinking, what can I write about?
I think we've all got a book in us somewhere, so, you know, maybe even a trilogy or a series. I think a lot of it's confidence. I think we assume that unless it's published by Penguin Books and things, it's never going to sell. Don't get me wrong, I've not made millions. I'm still tutoring.
Not yet.
I've not made a lot of money from selling my books. I've got to be brutally honest. I haven't. You know, it's not a revenue income stream where I'm going, do you know what? I'm just going to sit on the beach and let my book sell. That's not happened yet. You never know. But it just provides some money. But the biggest thing it provides is I've got my book forever. It's my book. It's got my name on it. And one day, hopefully, if I'm lucky enough to have grandchildren, the grandchildren might even be learning times tables in my book with my name on it. So yeah, there's all sorts of reasons we write. Money and an income revenue would be lovely, but there are other things, the reasons to do it as well. But yeah, go for it.
I completely agree. And does anyone have any final questions for Joanne before we sign off? If you do, if you put your email address in the last slide there. So if you do have any further questions, you can always email Joanne after the session. I'm sure she'll be happy to get back to you and offer some assistance.
Fantastic. Lovely to meet you all. Good luck with it all.
We'll sign off now. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and we do have some further summer sessions as well coming over the next couple of weeks. So if you wanted to check them out on our website and sign up to them, that'd be great. Yeah, so everyone have a great weekend.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Thanks so much, Joanne.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.